the idea of this like idealized summer job of, oh, I'm gonna work at the concession stand at my local pool, and I'm gonna work with a girl, and she's gonna be really cute, and she's my girlfriend. Oh, this is so awesome! The best summer of my life. It's like that. I feel like that idealized view of the summer job isn't really around anymore, even if
what
the
movie
habit
plot
is.
is that? That's
I think that's
I mean,
Snack Shack.
Yeah. Hip replacement. We're back. It's episode number 18. Kyle, we had a last minute cancellation from today's guest, so we thought since it was episode number 18, we'd draft in an 18-year-old.
It only makes it was meant to be. It was meant to be. This was designed by the cosmos to happen.
Series producer Campbell, soon to be 19. It is important to say, no mere late teenager, almost into his 20th year. Anyway, hi Campbell.
What's up, guys? Yeah, I don't know if that definitely was not intentional, but I think it's a very, very nice moment of serendipity, and you'll have to keep that trend going now. So next week we have to do a 19-year-old, and then 20, and then 21, and 22, all that.
I'm gonna
until eventually we're no longer
that starts to get a little
in our Gen Z age.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a little too programmatic. It's a little too, ChatGPT. What would ChatGPT do?
Well, they just don't get my jokes. They just don't get the jokes.
I will say, actually, saying this now is it has been harder than one would think to qualify somebody's age online. Because I always am sort of looking at that because, like, I have a baby fear that I'm going to book someone who's the same exact age as me or in between our ages. And then it'll be like, oh, wow, you did a really good job of making me think you were Gen Z and you weren't. But, like, I always sort of, like, try, like, figuring out the math of, like, when you graduate from college or high school on LinkedIn. And usually it's pretty good. But, like, finding an age is harder than you would think sometimes. Anyway.
Yeah, that's probably true. We should, well, and then also, it's funny. I was talking to somebody, a house guest, yesterday about hip replacement, and he is a little younger than me, a little older than you, Kyle, and so is in that, as he called it, zennial, which is a term that I had not heard exactly done in that way.
Really?
Zennial. Wait.
Well, technically, I think it's zillennial too. It's the same as a Z one, but with the X.
Yeah, but right, except with an X at the beginning of it. Right. Which I've also heard is the Oregon Trail generation. Yeah. Because they grew up playing that game where you die of dysentery. Anyway, but I just the point more so is that like all of these distinctions are like superfluous and sort of dumb and amorphous anyway, but also that it doesn't really matter. Like what we're trying to do, and I say this now as a newly minted 50-year-old, is represent a mindset and an age and a psychograph, not a particular age group per se.
I think that it
nods of agreement all the way around.
Yeah. I think there's it's just a reaction to, I guess, too much media and you needing to just being able to qualify where you are, which is all just to say we're just going to end up reinventing like Chinese astrology or horoscopes, whatever. I forget what it's called. It's just going to be like, you just give yourself a year and a sort of like mascot. Like that's what we're getting to. Anyway.
I'm a rabbit.
Yeah. I'm a dog.
Rabbit.
So I got a good
tiger.
One. There we go. The new RTD pod. Coming soon. The
there we go.
Okay. So, well, all right. Speaking of serendipity, one of the intergenerational topics, Kyle, that you suggested this week was the release, and Campbell and I were kind of getting up on it this morning, which is a statement in of itself. Is the serendipitous release of the Justin Bieber record "Swag," which I haven't listened to. Have you spent a bunch of time with it yet?
No, I refuse to listen. I'm not going to listen to that shit. I don't give a... He
even
is not...
No. Even with Generational Hero McGee on there?
Ooh.
No! No!
Wow. Okay. Jeez.
I have a lot of
I
thoughts,
thought
obviously. Anyway, keep
well,
going.
yeah,
Kyle is
clearly. I
not
thought
a hashtag believer. Jeez.
Oh no.
Okay, well, so one of the things that has characterized this release that I thought was interesting was the extremely low effort branding of it. Just the word swag in all caps, serif font on a black background, which it contrasted or maybe like compared to Brat, of course.
Right.
Last summer, and I literally just rode my bike past the Brat Wall, which is back up. Did you know the Brat Wall is back up?
Okay, when is it not up? Somewhere in the world.
No, but it's in the original Brat Wall space. It's back up. It says forever heart emoji.
God.
Did you? Okay, but that's a serious question. Was that a topic of conversation?
The Brat connection? No, but that
No,
makes me
no. Well, that, but also that the Brat Wall was back up. Or is this this is a hip
I
replacement?
feel like it keeps coming up, but like I think it sort of plays into why we don't have a song of the summer. Is like it's just like we're trying to recreate old times and good times, and the Bieber thing sort of plays into it too, where it's like, you know, spinning wheels in a lot of ways as culture and people age. Because I think this Bieber album is very reflective of aging and millennial sort of like midlife things. I think a mid or early 30-something calling an album swag in 2025 is so anti-swag and so like so cringe. Everything about it to me is like, this is like a cringe manifesto. Like it is, I don't know. Maybe since you listened to it, you can pitch me, but I feel like we've talked about this being millennial summer, and this is exactly proof of millennial summer. Lena Dunham show, like these are all on the mood board. Anyway.
Let's return to that because Marcel and I have been watching too much. The Campbell, give us your like impression, because I don't even know if it's a take. Neither you nor I have listened to the record, right? Because I have not.
I listened to like the first 30 seconds of the Lil B song, and that was it. Touching on your whole thing about the like them having like literally no promotion or like really any identifiable like marketing or original like imagery, the reason that I knew that this album came out was because I follow Lil B on Instagram, and he was posting more than Justin Bieber about getting one feature on a song. And then also my friend like texted in a group chat, was just like, Justin Bieber released an album, and nobody responded. Like nobody nobody cared. But I think
so. Yeah, go ahead.
I think definitely it feels to me a little bit like, you know, obviously when celebrities or figures come up at a really young age, they sort of usually have like a downfall after they exit like the cute kid phase. Obviously, since Justin Bieber has been a public figure for so long, I think this is him sort of trying to recapture his like youth in a way and show that he's still like with it, with the two Drewski features I saw, the Sexy Red feature, obviously two people who have become massively popular in the last like 3 to 5 years, and then also throwing on people like Gunna as well. I feel like this is just the Biebs arc for showing that he's like a cool uncle now.
So do you think he's a cool unk? Is he a cool unk to you?
He's certainly an unk. I don't know if he's a cool one yet. I'd have to listen to the album.
I think, yeah.
All right, Kyle, dive in here. Come on, let's go.
This is, look, I think everything you said sort of like proves exactly my point. I think it definitely, I think the unkness, like using the word or the term unk on someone who is like a quote unquote like multi-millionaire in his early 30s says it all. Like unk is like, in a lot of ways, it can be used ironically as a compliment, but like in a situation like this, sort of really it captures the term as like, all right, old man. Like it very much is that. And like I think the best, I forgot who tweeted this, but like it's been stuck in my head and I'm obsessed with it, is like someone called this like Justin Bieber's like racial psychosis album, and I'm like, it's exactly that. Like it's exactly this sort of like, you know, I got this swag, I am a white boy. I am a dad now. I might seem a little crazy, and maybe I
He's standing
am.
on business, Kyle. He's standing on business.
Exactly. And like I think all this sort of stuff, like that's the standing on business thing really like proved the out of touchness of it to me, was that it was like that became a meme because he used all these, you know, African American vernacular slang, or I'm forgetting exactly that acronym, AAVE, using these sort of slang terms of a community totally wrong. And like that's why it became a meme, was because like he botched it, and like then it became its own thing. And like, yes, there's something to be said about like that creating a phrase because you did it so poorly, but then to like sort of like stand on that business, quote unquote, and then get Drewski on it is like, oh, this is like we're getting into like deep embarrassment territory. And like I think in a lot of ways, like, but go ahead. No, go ahead.
Someone has to explain Drewski to me because I don't understand.
You don't understand
Campbell?
Drewski?
No.
Do you know who he is, or do you not understand who he is? Those are two different things.
Yeah.
No, I'm aware of the existence of a person called Drewski, but not why I'm aware or why I should be aware.
Campbell.
Yeah, he started mostly as like an Instagram, like YouTube sort of skit kind of guy initially, and then as he got more popular, he got a bunch of he got a bunch of notable collaborations with people. Like I think between 2021 and 2022, he was very closely associated with like Jack Harlow. He was in a Drake music video.
Okay.
And so he sort of slowly built up his popularity and eventually sort of amalgamated into the wider like hip hop, rap zeitgeist. And so now he's doing this thing called Could Have Been Records, where it's like he'll go around the country, have like an open talent show, and a bunch of people can just go in and like try to be like rapping or singing and be like, this is why I should be on Could Have Been Records. And then he's either like, nah, you suck, you're ass, get out of here.
Yeah.
Or you're like, we're going to make $1 million.
It's often very embarrassing humiliation rituals that he does through YouTube and his platforms.
It's American Idol, but actually
exactly
mean, like outwardly
like kind
cool.
Of yes.
Okay.
Like he has a bit of a mean streak. I mean, he's a creator, so like there's a lot of
not outwardly necessarily.
Well, I do know that he made the Rizzler cry in a video like a year or two ago, and that to me is like,
oh yeah,
that's a child. Like that was pretty mean.
That was pretty bad.
I mean, to be fair, he is a child that refers to himself as a definite article. So that's,
true, but also he's like 8 years old. Like being in like your 20s or 30s and making an 8-year-old cry who's in your video too. Like that's just mean. Like that's anyway.
Okay.
But like I think to that point, to everything you said, Campbell, like I think Drewski has become a sort of like cultural touchstone for certain parts of the internet and for a lot of, say, like Black people online and in entertainment. And to exactly to the point of what we were saying, like Rachel Psychosis album, him sort of like tapping into these sort of like communities as sort of like clout chasing to build his case of swag, again, to me is like really like big embarrassing on Maine that you're like, you know, these people, yeah, you may be friends, but like you're also Justin Bieber, you have a lot of money, and like these people are getting paid. They're not showing up because they're just your friends. But I think like an interesting thing to the Drewski and to it all is that like I had a Trem Report live event and we were talking about Addison Rae and how she is sort of like one of the first, if only like TikTok crossover successes in mainstream media, quote unquote, that can be debated. But Justin Bieber, lest we forget, is like one of the 5 or 6 like YouTube mega success stories. Like that's where he started. Like hypothetically, he started as a creator, quote unquote. And like, I don't think people are talking about this, but like his sort of collaborating with Drewski is interesting for that reason. But like, it also is sort of, and I don't think he's doing this, almost a commentary on what the creator now is in the cultural zeitgeist. It's like, Drewski will never be Justin Bieber, nor does he need to be in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because like sort of culture has moved on in a way, or like that sort of like a space like YouTube doesn't do that anymore. Like Drewski is more likely to, as we're seeing, like become his own production company and become a sort of record label over being an actual musician. And so it's again, like I think we forget about this because he's a bit, you know, cuckoo, is like Justin Bieber is a like sort of like millennial icon first and foremost, and then to build that infrastructure even harder is like he's a creator success story. Like he is arguably one of the most millennials out there, and this is why swag is so millennial.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. Or rather, I wouldn't ever argue that. I don't think.
Sure, fair.
One thing that before we get into, or let's talk about Millennial Summer, because I have a Millennial Summer question that gets into our Gen Z universe. So, okay, swag is one thing. Then we've got Too Much, which is the new Lena Dunham written and directed series on Netflix, starring
Meg Stalter.
Meg Stalter, sorry, Kayla from Hacks, aka Kayla from Hacks. And how many episodes is it? Is it 6, 8, 10?
Something
15,
like that.
100?
I know it's a mini series, I think. Well, they say that now.
Yeah, so Marcella and I have watched the first 4, and I gotta say, I like it's like a hate watch for me, in as much as I recognize the truth of it, and but also recognize the like artifice of it, and I also don't like. Well, actually, yeah, the main guy is okay, but I don't like I don't like the main character at all. But I'm not supposed to. She's written like Hannah in Girls. You know, it's that thing. It's very, very effective, is I guess what I'm saying, at like extracting these kind of millennial, I don't know what, stereotypes or whatever. Is that the way you watch it, Kyle? As someone
I haven't watched it yet, but like, oh, haven't you? No. But I think it's sort of like it's doing exactly what you're saying. Like, I think it is sort of like it is hitting this sort of millennial beats really hard, and like I've definitely what I've read and heard about it is like it's sort of like is sort of speaking to specific sort of millennial experiences. And I do think, like, you know, this idea, I mean, this is more universal, but this idea of like, you know, her having a sort of like breakdown and needing to flee the country just sort of like to escape herself in a lot of ways seems in ways like a sort of, you know, meeting the moment in a really good way, because I do think a lot of millennials reaching middle age are having that experience in myriad forms. That's a classic middle-aged thing. And even if like it's not pitched as that, I think subconsciously it's speaking to a lot of people in that way.
It reminded me, as did Girls, of course, at the time, but it reminded me very much of like the worst offenders of generational typography. Or you know what I mean? Just like,
I think that's the point.
I guess, I guess, and it's fun to watch. But it's funny, like, I was interesting. Marcella was watching it last night, and she's like, "This is making me so anxious," because you're waiting for the main character to like do something terrible and really mess it up. And in fact, the thing that Marcella was anxious about happening never happened, which is sort of interesting. But you know, it's like you just watch it, and it's like the cringe along show. It's wild.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Campbell, do you oh, sorry, Kyle, just really quickly, Campbell, just to not leave you out of this entirely. Do you know what we're talking about?
Or care?
Not really. I think I'm fascinated to hear like the sort of sensation that you're describing from getting with this show, where it's like a cringe along show, because I feel like I personally don't really like that, but I feel like there is a huge market for that sort of stuff that I think has emerged sort of because of the internet, and like, you know, you have funny home videos of someone like goofing up or doing something embarrassing at like family dinner, and so you're like, that was funny, I'm glad that wasn't me. And then on the other side you have like this show where it's like you're watching someone make a series of mistakes. It's like that episode of The Studio, the one where I just like I could not get past how obnoxious Seth Rogen's character was, because he was just like, obviously the joke is that he's like fucking up and messing with all the stuff, but it's just like it gets to a point where it's like, oh my god, it is so like agonizing watching this guy just completely, absolutely destroy this entire shoot
Yeah,
just from his own incompetence.
that's
So
true.
I think that I don't know if that's necessarily like a millennial thing, but I think it does represent in culture like a coming to terms with the sort of
Mhm.
uncomfortable or not necessarily ugly, but maybe unsightly aspects of, your personality and like sort of almost de-romanticizing the way that people and things are portrayed in media, in
Yeah,
film, television, all that.
yeah.
Well, question then I think for both of you, but I'm particularly intrigued to hear from you, Campbell, is like, do you think you all think that cringe and the idea of cringe, kind of divorced from this show, but this is a part of it. Do we think that cringe is really a sort of millennial expression? Or not the term itself, but like the idea of cringe. Do we think it is uniquely millennial? Yes, I do think it's pervasive in all of culture, but do we think that it is sort of like uniquely millennial?
Yeah. Okay, I'll just jump in and say I think of what it was like watching Seinfeld in when I was in college and feeling feelings that are similar. Like the
Right.
culture has leaned into that in a
Totally.
very specific way. But they're like the idiosyncrasies of Jerry, George, Elaine, Kramer in that
Hmm.
show gave me similar feels at the time. Like I can't believe these quote unquote
Right.
adults are behaving like this. What a bunch of assholes. I can't stop
Right.
watching.
Right.
Uh, I I would say it's not necessarily that it's like strictly a millennial thing, but I think just the fact that millennials were growing up with the advent of the internet and being able for everyone to put everything online, that obviously makes cringe content. It has automatically
Hmm.
like a wider audience that it can access. So I would say that it's sort of unfortunate because like, and this is just sort of like the whole running thread of this podcast is just how millennials are the horse or the dead horse that everyone wants to beat. It's like, oh, they're so cringe, they're so this, they're
Absolutely.
so that.
Yeah.
It is
It's funny to hear that
unfortunate
from a Gen
because
Z person. I would have thought you
it's
might feel
true, it's true.
but
Like,
I would have thought you might feel that way about Gen Z.
well, I think that Gen Z is definitely going to have that type of moment, and we already sort
Right.
of do. But I
We've got the
think I
Gen
think
Z
that
stare happening right now.
Yeah. We'll get into that.
but but I think a show that does like cringe or not even necessarily cringe, but like that sort of discomfort and like sort of social awkwardness. I think one that does that really well is Curb Your Enthusiasm. Just with
Totally.
Yeah.
like, it's not that Larry is necessarily doing anything cringy. He's just being like a self a self-focused asshole, and then all of the stuff that comes around because of that is just like uncomfortable to watch. But it's not necessarily that he's being cringe, it's just that the things he's doing in the moment are making other people cringe because it's just so like it's kind of it's like visceral.
Okay, so perfect segue then to the Gen Z stare. Y- You're making me feel uncomfortable by not engaging with me when I give you, you know, news that you don't want to hear.
Well, then I guess I'm just kind of like Larry David.
Yeah, I
Guess you
think
just gotta respect that, bro.
yeah, I Campbell, look, I think and of course I'm very, very biased, but I think that you are more. I don't think you're guilty of those. I don't think. I think you beat that rap. I don't think you are guilty of the kind of unengaged or diffident or whatever kind of kids that are your generation is often characterized by that. And I've even heard you express that about people your age.
Mhm.
But I don't know, Kyle. I mean, this whole Gen Z stare conversation comes out of the never-ending quibbles of millennials and Gen Z.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You want to like ground us here in what's going on?
Totally. So, well, I mean, like the conversation is about like specifically, it's sort of like is about say service workspaces where like somebody a waiter or a someone who works at a bank, just whatever, in sort of a service situation, or maybe even like a teaching situation, asks a young person a question, and like instead of getting a like direct response, you get this sort of like blank stare, and then eventually an answer sort of comes out. This sort of just like, what? And just like the Gen Z stare. And so like people have been sharing this sort of like how they have this interaction, how that sort of expresses itself, and theorizing why it's happening and all this sort of things. And obviously, like I think some of Gen Z is a little butthurt because they don't think they're doing it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The other side of the argument is that like, any sort of customer service or power dynamic like that is inherently weird, and like all of us do that. It's not unique to Gen Z, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think it sort of plays into a lot of, or not necessarily plays into it, but like I think it's sort of like it pairs with this idea of like Gen Z expressing kind of, I mean, maybe to the point of Justin Bieber in some ways, this sort of like confidence and like swagger or whatever you want to call it, of like they're sort of infallible. And like this is sort of a proof of that fallibility, and like this sort of like, you sort of like needing to take a second for like your computer to boot up and looking a little bit dumb, let's say, is proof that like you are human too, like the rest of us, and like you're not as hot shit as you might think. And like I think it's a funny, rare occasion where it's like, the millennials get a minor win because they did get under some Gen Z people's skin and annoy them in a way that like doesn't actually happen a lot. Usually it's the other way around. Sure. Yeah, but like it's an interesting conversation in that, like, is that uniquely a generational thing? I think there could be a case for that. There could be a case for like, and even thinking about it when you guys were talking, I was like, the Gen Z stare reminds of the sort of like lead paint boomer stare. And so like maybe the connective tissue. Oh my God, you don't know about that?
I'm not sure I'm familiar with the lead paint boomer stare.
Okay, so there's like a whole, maybe this is millennial too, but like this whole culture.
Yeah, I was going to say, Campbell,
like,
do you know the lead paint boomer stare? You familiar?
I can like approximate of I can too. It's like those. I think what Kyle's sort of trying to represent is like those moments where it's like, I don't know if this is a term that you guys would necessarily use. It's like your brain is like chugging, so it's like you're in the throes of thought, but obviously the lead up in your cranium is messing with you. So you got to just take a second.
Is that the origin, Kyle?
Not necessarily, but like that's sort of the theory is like sort of like boomers, and like there's a lot of talk about Gen Z and boomers being very similar, is like boomers will do this similar sort of stare that just like, okay, get on with it. And like maybe it's thinking, maybe it's not, but like the sort of theory is that the reason why they do that is because they were sort of subjected to so much sort of like lead paint and lead in their lives, and it sort of has led to some brain damage, which is why they act that way. So like that's sort of the joke behind like, why that happens.
Okay, I got it.
But all this to say is that like, I think we talked about this last week or the week before, is that like, it's not lost on me that you have boomers and lead paint and they're staring, and Gen Z and vapes, which have a lot of lead in it, also doing a staring. Maybe that's a conspiracy theory. I do not believe it, but I'm putting it out there. Maybe that's the connective tissue between the two.
Campbell, this is time for us to revisit that show we watched when you were a kid about the scientist who found lead in the air and
Cosmos?
Getting... Yeah.
Cosmos.
That's right. It was Seth MacFarlane's reboot of Cosmos.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Which had an episode about the scientist whose name escapes me, but he was a brilliant physicist, cosmologist, who also discovered lead in the atmosphere and got very concerned about it, and was the reason that lead was taken out of gasoline, which has mitigated a lot of the smog problems in LA, among other places. Mm-hmm. Anyway, sorry, that was a weird digression. Okay, well, so Campbell, do you notice the stare intragenerationally with your friends? Like, is there that buffering when you're talking to one another?
I I wouldn't say that there's like a stare when I'm interacting with other people. I think generally the Gen Z stare, I would say, is characteristic of just the way that people have evolved, like behaviors around engaging or not engaging with stuff. So
Yeah.
obviously, if you're scrolling on TikTok and you see a video that you don't like, you're just going to scroll past it. I feel like the thing that I'm seeing, which isn't really a case, it's not, obviously, it's a case by case basis, and it's not something that I've seen with people that I know, but seeing people who, as the example like Kyle said, it's like a waitress who's like, "Hey, do you want more water? Do you want me to pour more water?" And instead of being like, "Oh, no, thank you, I'm good," they just are like, "Okay, well, if I don't say anything to this person, they're just gonna go away. They're just gonna not talk to me anymore." And it's like that's not how it works. That's not how people really
So
work.
weird.
But I think it's also like it's funny to think about how it's kind of very similar to like the mid 2010s stereotype of like someone always like obliviously texting on their phone, not ever looking up from it. It's just I don't think that it's a millennial or a Gen Z or even a boomer thing. I think it's just that people, as a result of constantly interacting with something, just are less engaged with things that don't catch their attention immediately. And so
Yeah.
instead of doing the normal thing of being polite, using your words, and just being like, no, thank you, they just are like, well, if I don't look at it, it's not there and it's going to go away and it's not going to bother me anymore.
That's really
Incredible.
the idea of that as a function of the feed and the sort of
Hmm.
the constant progression of the feed is really fascinating to me.
I
What were
was
you
gonna
gonna?
say, like, I
Yeah,
think
you're
that
what are you gonna
like
jump in with?
it really, I do think, like, let's pretend that like this is a uniquely Gen Z thing. Like
Yeah.
the thing to me is that like it definitely does feel like a sort of response to like, and I've definitely been in a space where this has happened, where like, you're talking to people, you're talking to one person or a group of people, and people are just on their phone, and it takes a little bit for them to like look up, like acknowledge you, and then eventually speak. And like that to me is exactly it. It's this sort of like, whether or not it's true and whether or not it's of Gen Z or not, and I think there's a case to be made that we all do this now, is that like
Yeah.
even if you don't have your phone, there is that sort of moment of like, you looking up from your phone, like unplugging from your world to come back into the real world. And that's really what
Yeah.
it is. And like
Yeah.
I would put money on like, these, let's say, waiters again, like they're probably coming up to a table where there are a bunch of people who are looking at their phone. And
Mhm.
like they probably are looking up and being like, what's happening? And like, what did you say? And then like rewinding and saying like, that's probably why they're doing it. And like I don't think that's unique to Gen Z, but I think they're probably the ones who are most likely doing it, hence this connection. And it sort of funny enough dovetails into the millennial pause. Are you familiar with this, Ben?
Of course. Yes.
Okay. So like I feel like it dovetails into that because it's like that sort of similar thing. Like the
Sure.
millennials do that as like feedback of like, am I on camera? And like there is a similar thing happening of
Yep.
this sort of like, you're seeing the code switch in real time of like, I'm not in my world, I'm in the real world now. And like
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
is, it's not unique to Gen Z, but I think they're the ones who are gonna, I don't know if they're ever gonna escape this now, because like it does seem like they're an emblem of it, like the best emblem of it, because they're probably the ones who are most likely to be on their phone and experience that. Them and the boomers on their iPads.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I suspect the that younger generations, whomever they are, will do so just simply because you when as you get older, when you start to see behaviors that you recognize as not being productive in other people, you there's an impulse to self-correct, I think. Um, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's like as Gen Z ages and starts to see that in their younger peers or in their eventual kids
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the situation is, they might do some of that self-correction. But I
Because
want to
I
talk
was
about I want. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
really quickly, because I was going to say that like I feel like they're going to self-correct at this, and like think that this doesn't happen in Gen A, because I think they instead go to an anger place when you interrupt their time, which I think is
Oh,
being
interesting.
corrected
Okay.
now, because like there is a sort of like movement emerging of like anti-gentle parenting by millennials and probably other parents now, where it's like, no, I'm tired of just letting them run over me,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah, for
I
sure.
want to reclaim my whatever as a parent. And I think that that is also a response to like, no, you can't be on your iPad, and then your kid fucking screams for 3 days. And now
Yeah,
it's
for
like,
sure.
yeah, you take it away and then you fucking yell at them to stop screaming. Like, okay, let's be real parents now. I love that. I got yelled at a
It's
lot.
funny.
I think,
I have never yelled at my kids to stop screaming in the
damn.
last 10 hours.
Okay,
Um,
good.
that series producer Campbell sometimes gets a little heated on his video game wars.
Ugh.
So, all right. Okay, so speaking of summer, millennial summer, we are in the throes of summer. I'm wearing a mesh shirt because it's so damn hot. This is why you got to tune on video, listeners. You should be, getting to see what our
Yep.
outfits are. Kyle's
Come on, guys.
got a very special T-shirt on today too.
I do. It's a very, hey, Laurel Halo, shout out.
Big shout out to Laurel Halo. No, the thing I wanted to ask, or I wanted to mention about summers. So I was listening to How Long Gone this morning as I was going to retrieve something in the neighborhood, and Jason on the podcast said something about how ice cream stands, like mom and pop ice cream shops, now have worse employees and more brain dead employees than McDonald's. McDonald's has better employees because the summer talent is better at McDonald's or whatever. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what argument he was making, but either way, this was the observation he had brought to the conversation. And what it made me think of was summer jobs and the nature of people's summer jobs. Harper, Campbell's sister, my daughter, starts a summer internship tomorrow. Campbell is in the midst of a summer internship, notwithstanding his role here on the podcast. But I wondered, Campbell, like, do your friends have jobs, summer jobs? Because when I was a kid, everybody had a summer job. It was a mandatory. Like if you didn't, you were a jerk, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure that's true anymore.
I think I mean, I would say obviously you're not going to be looked at as like a bum on the street for like not having a summer job, but I think it gets a little muddy when you get to my age demographic, just because like Ness, as an example, one of my friends who goes to SCAD in Georgia, is currently, he doesn't have a summer job, and that's because he got back on the 30th of May, wasn't able to contact any employers when he was there, and then by the time he got back, all of the places were like filled. And so I think like obviously being in New York, it's a different issue because there's just like so many kids who are looking for jobs. There's so much competition. You're actually like also competing with adults who want to get jobs as well.
Sure.
But I think that definitely most people try to find summer jobs. They want cash flow and to be able to like rely on themselves. But I think that the idea of this like idealized summer job of, oh, I'm gonna work at the concession stand at my local pool and I'm gonna work with a girl and she's gonna be really cute and she's my girlfriend. Oh, this is so awesome, the best summer of my life. It's like that. I feel like that idealized view of the summer job isn't really around anymore, even if
what movie
the habit
plot is that? That's like
I think that's Snack Shack.
Yeah. That's right.
Snack Shack, yeah, that movie.
Well, it made me wonder because as a parent, I obviously feel like I felt like it was important for my, maturing. I feel like it's important for you kids. I want to not pay for you forever, and I want you to understand the value of money and stuff. But I also think you're right, Campbell. Like particularly where we are, you can't just walk into a McDonald's and expect them to get a job because there are people who are adults who are competing for that wage, which is of course not even close to a living wage, but is it's a hell of a lot more than the $4.25 or whatever that we would have been paid back in my day. I don't know, Kyle. I mean, like, do you get a sense that this is the market just shifting or changing, or is it like we want to let Bryce and Dallas go do their own summer shit?
Bryce, Dallas, and Howard.
And Howard.
But I was
The three kids.
I actually I feel like there is another sort of elephant in the room that like I think
Yeah.
really is figured into, and granted, like I think this is probably also regionally specific, city specific as well, or
Sure.
non-city specific as well, is that like I in my interactions with say like college students and or people who are going to college, and like I do interviews for like, you know, people who are going to who apply to my school, like we have like you have to interview with an alum, and I sort of like give them a grade to the school, and like this is what I think of them.
Sure. Sure.
And I've been doing this now for probably almost a decade, and like I would in the last say 5 years, maybe even 5 to 7, a lot of the kids that I meet with, even here in Europe, in LA, beyond,
Yeah.
a lot of them are like, I'm an entrepreneur. I have my own like Instagram where I sell my fashion. I'm doing this, and granted, like you know, these are kids who want to go to business school, and they're already in that space and in that thinking. But I think there is a sort of like, you know, the other element in the room is like I don't think a lot of kids, and this isn't every kid, but I don't think a lot of kids necessarily need to get the summer job, because a lot of them are already working, and a lot of them are doing these sort of like online jobs and careers that are a bit more adult and a bit more above them in a lot of ways. And even think to the point of Harper having an internship now sort of speaks to that, like sort of like the aging down of like more adult jobs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
Which
fair.
then, like, you know, if you are an adult of a certain age and you've missed that gap, yeah, you're then going to the McDonald's, because like you can't get that, you know, the young person's internship, or like it might be more difficult to be the young creator because you don't have the time because you're dealing with family, whatever. So I think there's a sort of interesting sort of like shift in this sort of like workforce dynamic.
Yeah.
Because like, again, like if you are a high school student and like, you know, I know that if I were able to like make a bunch of money selling crafts or whatever on Instagram when I was a kid, my mom would probably be like, yeah, you don't have to get a job because you are making money that way.
Sure.
And then who was working the arcade that I worked at? Some young adult who actually needed the job. So like
Couldn't
it's
set up
it's
an
an
Etsy shop.
interest
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting, I think, sort of economic shift that I haven't seen and experienced, and I think that it's like, you know, I think those kids age out of it. I think a lot of the kids who I even knew who were like, I'm an entrepreneur at like 16, I don't think they do it anymore, and like that's fine, but like that got them through
Sure.
high school. That was
That-
their job.
It
They
was
didn't work.
it was their summer job effectively.
Yeah, exactly, which
Yeah.
is a fascinating thing. I don't love that, but like, hey, it's sign of the times.
Yeah, I don't love it either, because it perpetuates this notion of the ability, or of the viability of operating in society outside of societal interaction. You know, like
Yeah.
you're cosplaying social interaction by talking to your screen, when in fact, you know, the nonverbal cues and picking up on what people are like in real life is the thing that actually gets it going. Campbell, how's your internship going, by the way?
Good, it's good. Had a video up last week on
Oh,
at
yeah.
It's Gymnasium on TikTok and Instagram, so please like it up. Any engagement is appreciated.
Campbell, can I offer you a little bit of live critique on the show? On the video?
Oh, I love some live critique. Let's go.
Buckle
All right.
up.
Let's hear it.
So in this video, which everybody should watch, like, and subscribe to, on It's Gymnasium, the Campbell goes to Applebee's and attempts to eat his fill of chicken tenders. Oh, and by the way, I had somebody correct me, because I was just telling a story about how Campbell was eating tendies, and this person was like, "You're using tendies wrong. Tendies is money, and that's what you make in the stock market, not
What?
tenders.
No, who was this
tenders
person?
are chicken."
No, they were shitting you.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
that's
Send me a bunch of
total
corroborating
crap.
No.
screenshots. I think there's a
No.
very particular kind of like.
That was like you met a tech bro algorithm. That is not real.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm so sending him this episode. That's so funny.
Oh my god.
Anyway, but Campbell goes to the world's largest Applebee's in Times Square, and attempts to eat
Damn.
as many the unlimited tenders deal. And the thing, Campbell, the thing that I wanted to offer critique on was that I think this is a really fascinating way to do economic journalism, right? If you want to call it that. And as a means by saying, like, we will explore the actual modes and means of capitalism through its, most accessible expression. And so the all-you-can-eat buffet being an example of it. What I didn't understand was you were trying to eat 56 tenders.
Holy
because
shit.
That's where you said the $15 price point equaled out. Where are you getting 56 tenders for $15? I don't understand how that. Where did that come from?
In the process of making the video, we looked up I don't know who did this. I think it was Max who did a lot of the research driving for the episode, but he talked about how Applebee's doesn't make their own tenders. They're sourced from another company called Coke Foods or whatever. And so they, at a market value, the cost per, I don't know if it's cost per meal. I don't know if it's a conversion rate, but it's supposed to be that one tender raw is 36 cents. It's worth 36 cents as an individual tender. And so if you were to buy into this it was actually $20. I think that was a mistake. It's 15 other places nationally, but it was 20 at this Applebee's. But if you were to get this, how many tenders would it take to break even? Because the whole point of the video is exploring how do these unlimited deals actually make money? How do they work? Because the idea is, I can go in, eat 10 tenders and fries and get a free refill on a drink instead for $20 instead of paying 15 for 5 tenders. So I'm doubling my value. And it's really not that you're doubling your value. You're getting far less, and you also get served a different amount than if you were to just buy regular tender things. So it was mainly just exploring the that idea of how it actually makes money. The money is in trying to maximize the amount of money or the amount of value that you think the customer is getting versus the amount of value that they're actually getting. And then that skew is your profit margin, essentially.
Got it. Okay. I was unclear as to where anybody was getting 56 tenders for $15 from. So I felt like that should have been explained.
Maybe.
In the next place you go where you're eating unlimited, whatever, you can add in that little byline, little
honestly, we should.
I was gonna say.
I mean, I would love to make it a series. So
I feel like there's enough places that do that. It is, it is fascinating because I was I was just looking it up. Red Lobster, I know they announced a bunch of new things, but they unlimited something is not that. They actually ended that with this new CEO. Sort of
the unlimited shrimp that sank the company. Yeah.
Because he was this is I know how to do math. This is not a good thing. But they did bring up seafood boils, which is so smart and so clever. So it is sort of a trending thing.
Oh, Kyle, that brings up the we're here to announce new IP created by the family on this side of the pod. Proud to announce Seafood Boiler Room.
Great. Love it.
Such a good idea.
Who's the first
a
DJ
genius idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. We're gonna have to work on the programming, but anyway, just to put it out there in the world,
DJ Butter Biscuit
before anybody else gets their hands on a boiler room style concept with seafood boil in it.
Oh my god!
Very excited. Oh man! All right, well, guys, I would say this has been a very successful hip replacement episode number 18. So great to see Campbell in front of the camera again, our hardworking series producer.
18 with an 18-year-old.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Campbell.
Well, Well, everybody, we do this every week, so come back and see us, and like and subscribe this too. It could be helpful. Leave a comment, share it with your friends, all that kind of fun stuff. Where we've seen some great subscriber growth, and we're turning into like digital growth hackers.
We're doing. Hey,
no,
look, people will study this.
All right. Well, Kyle, great to talk to you as always. Campbell, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again.